This is a Thai G1 from 3F UL Gear, a one-person backpacking tent that costs around £130 for the solid inner version and about a tenner less for the version with the mesh inner. It weighs in at 1.9 kilos, so it is quite heavy for a one-person tent. And this pack size does look quite big, but I always pack my poles separately from the tent, which means that pack size isn't usually a massive issue. Let's crack it open and see what's included. I've got a footprint in the bag, so if you don't use them, you're already saving a little bit of weight. The Thai G1s are worth considering though, because you can leave them attached to the tent when you pack it away. We've got a bag of pegs, as you would expect, the usual 3F UL Gear pegs with a little bit of a curve on them. We've got a pole repair sleeve, guy lines, and a repair patch as well. Then we've got the tent fabric, the inner and outer. The inner's already attached using these toggles. So it pitches all together, and as I say, you can even leave the footprint attached to these tents. Then we've got the poles in here. They're aluminium poles, and I think there's 3 of them. We'll have a look in a minute. I want to get this tent pegged down before it blows away. This tent's been out for a long time now. I've just not had a chance to bring it out, mainly due to the weather, plus a chronic case of can't be arsed syndrome. I've had the Thai G2 tent before, and it sets up in exactly the same way. The poles just go corner to corner and then clip on. There's some rings here that are part of the poles that you put your guy lines through. You can wrap them around as well, around the poles, to make things a bit stronger. There's a double clip in the middle at the top here that both poles go through, and then you've got this smaller pole that goes across the top to give you a bit of extra head height. Just get some more pegs in and then we'll have a proper look. So I've got it in that khaki colour that I really like, that 3F UL Gear do. My Thai G2 was this colour, and all the Lanshans I've had are this colour as well. I really like it, especially in sort of autumn winter time. It really blends in the UK. So we've got plenty of clips holding onto the poles, probably about every 12 to 14 inches I would say. You've got a loop here for guy line, a loop here for a guy line. 2 loops on each corner essentially. You can adjust each corner to cinch it down and really get a tight pitch. We've got a peg in the middle at the back to pull that back wall out, and a vent here with some sort of polystyrene stuff in there, I guess it is, or plastic to keep the shape, and then a solid rod with some Velcro on it to keep that held open. There's a vent on the other side as well on the front next to the door, so in theory it should be a well ventilated tent. The materials are 15D steel nylon with this ripstop through it and a 5000mm hydrostatic head. The floor inside is a 20D with a 6000mm hydrostatic head. Let's jump in and have a look. We've got 2 loops here for the doors. You can use 2 pegs or just put them both onto one. We've got a piece of Velcro there. It's quite a solid storm flap, to be fair. And another bit of Velcro there. And a zip. It's only one way. I have seen people swap the zips out for 2-way ones. As with the Thai G2, got a piece of elastic here to hold the door open. And then this is the solid inner version of the tent. So you've got a solid fabric up to probably 2/3, almost 3/4 of the way up. And then you've still got a little bit of mesh there to allow some airflow. Then this is the dual zipper. We've just got a loop and toggle on there to hold that open. It's nice to sit in here. It's grim out there today. I'll get my tape measure out in a minute and we'll measure up, but straight away it does feel quite spacious in here. Feels a lot more spacious at the top than something like the Lanshan one. The floor print looks exactly like the Lanshan one. You've got the triangle bit at the back here, so your sleep mat goes across here, and then you've got a little bit of storage. But the Lanshan one, being a pyramid tent, comes in quite a lot at the top, so it does get a lot more claustrophobic than what this feels. We've got the token pocket at the end there. I really don't know why they bother with those. You have got a little bit of vestibule space on this side. It looks like there's enough height in there to just run a stove and boil some water up. It is a 1-person tent, so it's never going to be a palace, is it? I'm not going to attach the guy lines just so that somebody complains about it in the comments, but I am going to measure the inner because they're not always accurate on the listings, and there is some deviation in the manufacturing sometimes. So even if you do get yourself one of these, it might not be exactly these dimensions, but from the apex of that inner to the edge, about 112 centimetres. So you've got a couple of bonus centimetres there, I think, against what they quote in the specs. Then at the narrower end here, that's 70 centimetres wide, which I think is bang on for what they quote. Lengthwise, it's about 215, so plenty of room in there for your sleep mat to go. And then height-wise, just to give you an idea, it's about 97, 98 centimetres. So there is plenty of head height. Obviously I'm not on a sleep mat at the minute, so that will reduce, but I'm confident that there'll be plenty of space to sit up in here. You have got a lantern hook as well, and that crossbar, as I said, gives you this flat piece of roof here. So unlike those Lanshan tents, it does feel a lot roomier and a lot more spacious inside. I do really like 3FUL gear stuff. I think it hits the right balance of price and quality. The stitching on this looks really good. The materials are really familiar, and I've never had any problems with any of the tents that I've had from 3FUL gear before. There is some movement if you push on the top of the tent, but I have seen people attach trekking poles to these edges to stop that and make that a bit stronger. So this is obviously not a review, it's just a first setup to make sure everything's present and correct, and have a good look over the tent before I take it out, which I recommend anybody does before heading out anywhere in a tent. Just make sure everything's there and everything's been stitched together properly. Again, it's not a review. There's been a few dramas the last few days with people commenting on other people's videos, moaning basically, saying it's not a review, even though it's clear that the video is not a review. The main reason I do these videos is because a lot of these products from China don't always have clear product descriptions or product information. They tend to have some really weird translations for things, so as you're reading through, it doesn't always make sense, and it's not always clear what you're actually going to get if you buy the product. So the hope is that videos like this, and I'm sure other people's as well, just give you a better idea of what the product is and what it isn't, what you get with it, what the actual specs and measurements are and stuff like that. I can tell you though, on first impressions, it is really well made, as you would expect. I like the colour, I like the materials. I might do a few tweaks to it over time, but I won't really know what's needed until I've taken it out and tried it. One thing that would have been nice to have is a T-door option, so that you could open up the full front of the tent like you can with the newer Lanshan tents, especially when it's a one-man tent. Once you're in there and everything's closed up, it can get quite cozy, so it's nice to have the option to fully open up the front of the tent if you are camping somewhere that's got a nice view. I got this from Collins Outdoors. I've had loads of stuff from them in the past. It usually comes within about a week, and even shopping around, their prices seem to be a little bit less than what you can get this tent for on AliExpress. Hashtag link in description, mate. If I'm feeling fancy, I'll even whack a QR code on screen for you. As always, thanks for coming along. If you enjoyed the video, there's loads more up here, or subscribe down here, and I'll see you in the next one. Beans and sausage. Solo killer, mate.